Hello.
He is back, finally.
Back, baby. They tried to take me out. They failed again.
They failed again.
The man.
I don't even know who the they is there.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They
The
failed.
other. Yep. They failed. Oh, it's good to be back.
Man, so we got a lot to catch up on. You're one apparently useless organ down. You did a big thread on MrBeast.
Oh yeah.
I was an MC at Laracon. You didn't even go to Laracon. We launched a Frank Sinatra trailer. What are we going to talk about?
You're going to jail. There's so much stuff to talk about. I don't know. Well, let me give the quick gallbladder story. I'm doing the ultralight. I can't give the story too much. Probably people know about it, but just since I've been gone, basically didn't feel good a lot of the summer. Didn't totally know why. Did various tests. Eventually figured out gallbladder is going bad.
Bad.
Yeah. I think I was poisoned, but whatever. We'll put that aside. Yeah, so hacked it out. Went pretty smooth. It's been 2 weeks, just a little short of 2 weeks. They do it laparoscopically now, so they punch a couple holes in you.
Oof.
But not the big open surgery. Went pretty smooth. I mean, there's like so much stuff with that I could talk about, but I don't know.
I don't know if I have the stomach for it.
Yeah, like there's not too much to it. I would say went fine, back to eating fairly normal, so that's good. Yeah, otherwise pretty good. It's a weird thing that if you have like slightly non-standard symptoms, like mine weren't totally traditional, that it's not quite so easy for them to pin down initially. So that was a little bit annoying, but yeah, otherwise feeling pretty good. Still tired. Wounds are still healing a little bit, but besides that, it was pretty straightforward. Going under, getting the surgery went all smooth. A couple things for people who don't know, if you have laparoscopic surgery, I didn't know this. A nurse this is like the healthcare system's so crazy. Like the nurse just threw this out there in passing that like, oh, your shoulders might hurt after the surgery. And you're like, oh, that's weird. Because laparoscopic surgery, they pump you full of CO2 to like puff you up so that they can see what's going on in there. And so that gas doesn't really have anywhere to go. Like it's just in your body cavity. It's not like in your lungs and stuff. And so it has to like slowly reabsorb in. So while it's in your body cavity, it's pushing on nerves and it makes pain. And so that pain is not like some pain. That pain is like excruciating ice pick in your shoulders.
Really?
Pain. Yeah, like way worse than the incisions. It was like 3 or 4 days of like pretty excruciating, and then another 3 days probably till it was like basically gone. So that was like the worst pain of the whole thing. And it's not even like, it's like, it's so crazy because you leave with paperwork, right? And it's like, if you're suicidal and like, it's all this random shit, right? But there's nothing in there about everybody basically gets this and it's excruciating pain. And if nobody just happens to tell you in passing, like you're going to leave there thinking that like, holy crap, am I having a heart attack?
Right.
Like, is something crazy wrong? Like this is an insane amount of pain. I mean,
so if this nurse happened to just not bring it up, you would have
like
never
if she got busy and like she missed telling me this, like I would literally have no way to know, and I'd be instantly on the phone and being like, I'm in excruciating pain, what's going on, like in a totally unrelated part of my body to what was worked on. So we got through all that, and yeah, overall it was good. No setbacks or anything. So hopefully back on the mend. Missed Laracon, which was a crazy bummer because my surgery was like the next day, and leading up to the surgery, once you figure this out, you gotta eat all crazy, like no fat. So I'm on this like 0 fat diet, and yeah, just worn out and tired and all that. Definitely couldn't, in pain from the gallbladder, because at the end, by the time I got to the end, then it was the more obvious symptoms of like nausea and like pain in your side and stuff like that. So I was glad I decided not to go, because it would have just been me hiding in a hotel room until I could have got back on a plane to leave. So
yeah, it would have been even worse.
Yeah,
even less fun.
Nothing worse than traveling and not feeling well. That's the worst.
Was it just like when they took it out, was it just like a bag of rocks, just a bunch of freaking stones in there?
Yeah, and so I wish they had kept it. I kind of wanted to get the stones. I think back in the day they used to do that, but Yeah, I didn't get to actually see mine, but yeah, that's in fact what it is. Just cholesterol from your bile duct from your liver, and that's what your gallbladder does. So what it does is it takes in bile from the liver, and it strengthens it, like removes the water and concentrates it.
Okay.
And so when you eat something fatty, it just releases a bunch of this all concentrated bile all at once, and that makes the fat particles smaller, which makes it easier to digest. And so so basically what most people experience is these stones either get stuck in the duct out of the bladder or block it, and then you get like severe pain because it's trying to pump stuff out and it can't, and whatever. Mine was a little different. It was more like this chronic thing where like the stones can be in there and just irritating the gallbladder, and then the like wall of the bladder gets thicker, and then it gets inflamed, and it inflames other things, and so stuff's just not acting correctly, but not with the more traditionally, people just get this incredible pain and nausea, and they go to the doctor and like, I'm having pain in my upper right quadrant and nausea, and they're like, it's your gallbladder, whatever. Mine wasn't quite so clear cut. But yeah, it's just literally physical stones in there. And
so now what? The gallbladder's gone and all that, they just reroute everything? How is this possible?
It's fascinating how it works. So your gallbladder, there's nothing to reroute. There's only one. So you have this, your liver makes bile. Bile goes through this one duct into your small intestine. Now the gallbladder has a branch off of that. So it's a single duct off of the main bile duct into the gallbladder. So it's just like a bag it's just a balloon with one duct to this that ties to the main line. So basically like it's like the bile goes down the main line and some of it just goes off into the gallbladder and the rest of it just pours through into your small intestines. So your small intestines are actually always just getting some, and some goes off in your gallbladder. So what they do is they crimp that off, and then they crimp it off on the gallbladder side, and they crimp it off on the right near the bile duct, the main duct, and they clip it, and they just take the gallbladder out, which is the balloon, and then that clip stays in there forever. I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking because there's just like this titanium clip in there. I have to check with the doctor. That's what they normally use. They can also suture it, but I think now it sounds like they just always use these clips. So there's two clips keeping closed this open, what was the line to the gallbladder, that's now cut off with these clips, and now your liver is just constantly putting bile into your small intestine. So basically, if you had like a hugely fatty meal, like you may not have enough bile to deal with that, and then you're gonna get like gas and maybe diarrhea and stuff like that. So far, as I've reintroduced fats, I have not had any issues at all. But I also haven't had like a big basket of fries or, I've been still watching it. I have had like hamburger and I have had like meat and things and cheese, and it's been fine. So it seems like for the most part, I'm fine. But I haven't tried the go out for the big steak dinner with a bunch of, buttery mashed potatoes and all the stuff and see how that goes. But we'll get there.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, that's horrifying.
So there's nothing to reroute. The surgeon this is a little funny thing. I'm in talking to the surgeon like 2 weeks before the surgery. And he's got this chart, like one of those body charts of like your insides up on the wall. And he's like, okay, like here's the gallbladder, and here's the line, and here's the main bile duct. And they're different colors. So you can see it all, right? And he's like, so it's all fine. We do this all the time. He's like, but the one potential issue is like if you clip the main bile duct, that's a problem. And inside your body, it's not color coded. So like, yes, dude, I mean, that's obviously true, but also kind of scary. He's like,
terrifying.
We do, they have some computerized thing that, checks it before they cut and all kinds of stuff. And it was also fascinating. Like everybody and their mother was in the surgery. like literally 3 different students came in at different points and were like, oh, it's okay if I watch. One was an anesthesiologist student, and one was a surgical student, and one was somebody else. There's like 3 nurses, the surgeon, 2 anesthesia people. Like they roll you in there and it's like there's stuff going on.
Do you remember the Junior Mints episode of Seinfeld?
Oh, I was thinking about it the whole time.
Seinfeld always says you don't want to have a surgery where other doctors are like, oh, I gotta see this. That's bad news, man.
That's trouble.
You don't want people coming in saying this is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to miss this one. Actually, this is the 5th or 6th most common surgery in the country. So it's very common. So yeah, whatever. It was cool. I was like, yeah, whatever. Come in, check it out. What do I care? So people were watching. Yeah.
Well, you're back. I'm glad you made it.
That all
sounds kind of horrifying, but I'm glad you're feeling okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, what else? That's the main thing. While they were in there, they also fixed a hernia, which I didn't know I had.
The old 2-for-1.
Was like, yeah, it's like this way I don't have to do surgery again. So that was actually the other. It was like the gas pain was 1. Where they fixed the hernia that I didn't even know I had was 2 on the pain. And then like the incisions from where they actually put the laparoscopic instruments in are like totally fine. They just super glue it all now. So you don't even like have stitches. Wild. Yeah. But I could show the audience my bullet holes.
No, I've about reached the limits of what I can bear.
All right, so that was my big stuff. I actually had some other big stuff, but let's go to you. What? Well,
I want to hear what you thought of my my solo run without you. What'd you think of Caleb as guest co-host?
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. I listened obviously to all the episodes. I thought it was
fun, right?
It was great too because it just lined up so nicely with Caleb actually having this like big launch and thing he's working on. So there was like an actual storyline to the whole thing where he's coming in every week and being like, I don't know what to do or whatever. And then you had, Daniel on there for the one. And I think I'm thankful to everybody for filling in for me. Thank you guys. Thank you for Aaron for being so accommodating and
of course,
keeping the show going while I was out. So
the show must go on.
I thought it was great. I thought the show went on. I mean, the last one was like 2 hours. I was like,
it was.
They're really giving people their money's worth there. Like, this is not just like fill it in. This is like a full-on therapy type session going on here.
It was awesome.
You're deep.
Yeah. It was a ton of fun. I loved having them on. My wife listened to them, and she said, "I really like Caleb, but I got to say, I miss Ian. I like listening to you and Ian. You and Ian have something special." And I was like, I know. So good to have you back.
Yeah, I agree. I miss being on. It was like last week I almost did it, but I was like, I just didn't feel it. And like, I don't want to be on here being all like, all dumpy. So
that happened one time. Do you remember that? You were like, I don't know if it was gallbladder stuff, but you were super sick. And we got on and the vibe was just awful.
Bad
and you're
vibes.
Like, all right, man, I got to call it. This is not working. I was like, okay, good. I felt like that wasn't working.
Dude, that was the beginning of all this stuff. So that was in the spring. It was like the end of March or something like that. And that was the beginning of me starting to feel bad. And like, it was with my thing, it was like impacting my breathing because there's like pressure it puts on your diaphragm. Like, not that you literally can't breathe. Like, if they measure your breathing, which they did, it's like, oh, you're totally fine. But like the feeling wasn't right with it at times. And that was the beginning of it. Yeah. And I was like on here, I was like, I don't have the juice. Like, I can't do it.
Like, I think you were trying to read a Laracast ad and you were bombing it. Like, what is going on with him? And that's when you were like, all right, man, we got to stop.
We got it though. Yeah. We were like 10 minutes in after that. And I was like, this ain't going to work. So yep. So it's been impacting. Yeah, it's been for a while dealing with it. And it's the whole thing. It's like, not just the thing. It's like, well, go, obviously if it's like breathing-y type stuff, like, well, go check your heart. Okay. That's a month and a half of like, because they don't there's nowhere you go where they're like, okay, we do everything. It's like, you got to do step 1, then step 2, and step 3. Okay. All right. That's good. Now check your lungs. Go step 1, 2, 3. Like, so it's months and months of bouncing around and everybody's like, you're at the peak of human fitness. Nobody's in better shape than you in all these systems. And I'm like,
meanwhile, you're dying.
Right. But meanwhile, I feel terrible. So I don't think I'm like the actual total peak of human fitness. So we figured it out.
Good.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the beginning of it. So been a little run here. But and in the middle of that, like, my son was picking a college, then my son was going to college. There's all that stuff. We dropped him off at college like 2 weeks before the surgery. I think I knew it was the gallbladder stuff by then, but it was still going to be several weeks. So went up there and he's doing good with it, which is great. But yeah, there's been a lot going on this summer, plus a million other things. But those are the big
going
ones.
on, man.
Yeah, busy summer. I'm excited to get through 2024. I feel like it's been a busy, not always the best way. I mean, the college stuff is good, but it was like on top of this stuff
Right.
and whatever. So kind of looking forward to 2025, but we're gonna finish strong in 2024 and go from there.
Okay. Woo! All right. Well, we're
It's
we're
the
back on
Landsman
track.
update.
Yeah. All right. So we have a ton to cover. Where do you want?
I don't know, let's see. Of the stuff I like super missed on your end, what about I don't know. You had a plumbing update as a nearer term thing. Do you want to give us the plumbing update? Last week
Different
you said you had
kind
a
of
plumber
plumbing,
come.
but yes.
Yeah.
So this freaking house, man, got this house,
Homeownership's the
remodeled it.
worst.
Contractors are the worst. How are
The
they
whole thing
all
is
so
terrible.
bad?
Yeah.
How are they all so bad?
Don't we should open a contracting business.
Oh my gosh, we would be good because we're not. Yeah.
We can answer the phone.
Yeah, we can answer the phone. So yeah, we got this tile in our master shower, and now it's all discolored. It's marble, so it's like, well, that's porous, but we got this super special seal put on it, right? But it's being discolored from underneath, so the shower pan is not draining correctly, so it's retaining water underneath, and then the tile is soaking it up. So
it's not sealed on the underside. Probably.
No, of course not, because it's supposed to drain down there. So we had a plumber come out, not associated with the contractor, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did install the shower pan wrong, but I can't see it, so good luck." But also under the house, they did everything wrong. Like, this is not up to code. There's a vent down there that is not allowed to vent in the crawl space. They did an S trap when they should have done a P trap. And I'm like, yeah, definitely.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
now I'm just like, okay, so did they do all of this stuff wrong? So I call the contractor out. He brings out an inspector, one of his friends, of course, but he's a licensed inspector, and he's actually a student of Chris Morell's, boss man Chris. I was like, so where do you what's your license? He's like, well, have you heard of Internachi? And I was like, have I heard of Internachi? Boy, haven't I.
So funny.
So this inspector looks at the shower and he's like, yeah, I can't tell. There's, it's all sealed up. Let me look under the house. He looks under the house and he's like, it looks good to me, but if in this situation, I would call out a licensed plumber because I'm not a licensed plumber. And I'm like, yeah, no freaking kidding. So then I call out, I have a friend who is a master plumber, and now he has his own plumbing company. And so I text him and I'm like, Elisha, I need one of your guys. Can you send out one of your guys? So he sends out one of his guys, totally agrees. Everything is done completely wrong. He's like, this vent that is under the house actually needs to go up through the wall and out the roof.
Oh my gosh, that's a big one.
That's a big one. It's not just like put a different vent or vent to an exterior wall. He's like, no. This has to go all the way up through the wall. So they're probably going to have to rip open some walls. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I request a report from them. I'm like, listen, I need specific code citations. Yeah, and so Elisha, my friend like looked up in the plumbing code. He probably knew it off the top of his head, but he looked it up and sent me back like plumbing code rules. Here's why this is illegal. And so I sent it back to the contractor and I'm still waiting. And then on the tile stuff, I'm like, guys, I just want everyone out of my life. This is all that I want. I just want you all to go away. I want my house to be like not growing mold, but I also want you to all go away. And so the contractor, it's a fight between, did the contractor do it wrong or did the ceiling company do it wrong? And I'm stuck in the middle being like, I don't care. Y'all figure it out. But they're, fighting and therefore fighting with me, and I hate it. And so the contractor's like, listen, what if we just tile over the tile? And that way it's done. It's fixed. We have a new tile in there. And I'm like, that's fine. However, we're going to cut out a 6x6 square of the existing tile first with your plumber and my plumber there. And we're going to see if that shower pan is retaining water. Because if that shower pan is retaining water, it's all coming out and you are paying for it.
Yeah, because just putting it over the top, that makes no sense at all.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, if the tile sucks, if this tile sucks and we cut out a 6x6 square and we look at the shower pan and it's sloped and it's bone dry, fine. I picked a bad tile. Joke's on me. But if we cut this out and it's all wet down there, listen, you are redoing all of this for free. So I'm just like, with everything else that's going on, just at my wit's end with this like remodel. I'm so over it, and I'm so freaking depressed about it because I'm like, do it right and get out of my life. And they
Wow.
and they're gonna have to redo parts of the wood floors too, because
Oh.
they didn't let the wood condition, and now it's all like cracked and bowed. And I'm like,
yeah, you gotta let the wood condition.
dummies.
That's like the most basic.
That's rule
Everybody
number
knows
one.
that.
Yes.
They parked the wood inside the house for like
I know.
weeks or whatever.
I know.
That's when they did our floors. You know, this
I
wood
know.
just sits here until
It's freaking dummies. So
Wow.
I'm just furious. I'm exhausted. I'm not paying for any of it. That's for sure. But you know, I don't like fighting.
Wow.
So it's like I'm stuck in the middle with this contractor being like, we'll do everything we can to make it right. Also, it's not our fault. And I'm like,
I mean, the floor, that's a really big inconvenience. Ripping out flooring and sanding and refinishing and hoping they don't screw it up and it actually matches the rest. And what about the rest? Like, it's not bowed now. Is it going to be bowed in a year because it wasn't right? Like,
I know.
Wow.
So,
you know what other people do in this situation?
Move.
That's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
They sell the house and they get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
But
once Steve and I are super rich, which is coming,
when you do it.
I'm out, man.
Yeah.
I am buying a house that is completely finished.
One little thing,
just like built 5 years ago and looks perfect, and then the executive got called to a foreign country and had to sell his house. I'm like, that's the one I want.
That's you, yeah. Take some oil guy's house, like you know it's good. It's
exactly. He overpaid, he overbuilt, and now they've got to go. And it's like, that's my house now.
Yeah, we had a quasi similar thing when we built our house in terms for your venting thing. It depends a little bit on exactly where it is, but basically they were finishing the outside of the house and they nail gunned through a Freon line for the AC stuff. And you know, the house is like all done and this line's in this exterior wall, and what are we gonna do about that? God, I wasn't really keen on like ripping through all the walls to get up because that was the line to the second floor air handler, blah blah blah. So we ended up just having them punch outside the house there and take it up the side of the house up and to where they needed to go. There's like a cover on it, and it's like the side of the house that faces nothing, so it's like whatever, who cares? So that could be an option for this venting. It's like just pop it outside, then go up over the roof through the roof through the eave. Potentially, if it's not like the front of the house, or if they can run it towards the back and out or whatever, where somebody don't care so much about.
Hopefully that's possible, because I don't understand. I don't understand how the old shower was set up, because I don't think like right above our bathroom is the kids' room, and they're not running a vent through there. So I don't even understand how it ever worked. But fortunately, that's not my problem. If you come and do a remodel, I expect you to do it up to code. So it's not really my problem.
Yeah, that part's true. But the part that is your problem is when they rip through all the walls to do it, and then they screw that up. Like, which is not your problem in the sense of like, well, they just have to keep coming back. But like, but like at some point, like a year and a half from now, when you're like, oh, you got to come back because when you ripped through this other thing and broke the other thing that you didn't know was there, and blah, 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 like, all that stuff is as much of a nightmare. Even if you're not paying for it, it's still a disaster.
Super depressing. So not great. Not great.
So that's not good. Well,
you know what would solve all of my problems? Money. That would solve all of my problems. People keep saying like money won't solve your problems. I'm like,
those
I'd like to try.
Insane. Those
sure would be nice to try.
What they're talking about. The money doesn't solve all your problems. People literally have no idea what they're talking about. Like, it doesn't. Fine, it doesn't solve every single problem. It solves a lot of problems.
It solves your plumbing problems, and honestly, that's all I care about right now.
That's a big one, yes.
That's a whole lot of problems. Plumbing and AC, that you can throw money at and it will just get better. You know, like happiness and raising children and stuff, that's different. But plumbing and AC, those are all my problems. Those are the only problems I have. I'm a little bit sleepy, but plumbing and AC, those are my real problems.
Money can even help with the sleepy. You can have a team of people in there waking up, taking care of kids all night long.
That's what I'm talking about. So, not great.
Well, how was Laracon? So you were all over the place. You were coaching. I know you went through this already, but like with, I don't know, give me your vibe. I didn't get the firsthand accounting. Was there any highlights we didn't talk about yet? Like, how was hosting?
Okay, so hosting is great. I love
hosting.
I love being the host. It's great. It's so fun. So that part was super fun. I like I like taking care of, hospitality. If you want to call it a spiritual gift, hospitality is what we would call that. So I like taking care of the speakers and the people and making sure that everybody has what they need and things flow smoothly, making sure the audience knows what's coming next, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I hosted the first 2 Laracon USs, and like it's like all the best parts of speaking. Like everybody knows who you are, lots of great conversations. You're backstage, it's fun, you're mixing it up with everybody. But you just like go out and tell a few jokes and like transition some people, and that's it. Like it's not like months of like, oh, this talk and am I gonna screw it up? It's all this pressure. Like there's no pressure. You're like wander out there, you just be jovial. It's great. Love the hosting.
You just get to go be folksy on stage.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. That's all I ever want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to like Daniel and Caleb talk about their talk preps and how they've been working on it for months. And somebody, I don't know if it was Jennifer or somebody else, asked me if I was prepping to be MC, and I was like, no, not really. I'm just gonna show up. Show up, point at some people, tell a few jokes, get off the stage. It's great.
You did more prep for the basketball game. You're out there buying suits or whatever, or buying whistles, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I sure did. So for the basketball game, I did buy, I bought a new pair of shoes that matched a suit I already had. So I didn't buy a new suit, but I bought a new pair of Nikes that matched the suit. Got a whistle, a coach's whiteboard, and a Basketball for Dummies book.
It's way more prep than hosting.
So fun, so hysterical. And then, so we'll back up. Let's go to the basketball game. So, I show up, first of all, David Hill, which is different than David Hemphill. Somehow we have both in the community. David Hill, David Hill messaged me and was like, hey, you want to play basketball? I was like, hey, I sure don't. Pretty terrible at it, and I do not want to play. And so he's like, okay, well, you can be the coach. I thought, now that I can do. A little acting, I can do that for sure. Yeah. So I leaned into the bit as I do, and then I get there. Turns out there's some serious players. Not only are there some serious players, there's some players that seriously want to win. And so I huddled up our team early on, and I was like, hey, y'all, here's the deal. I'm just here to be funny, so you don't have to listen to anything that I say. And I said, one thing I can actually do is like, if you come tell me this person needs to come off the court, I can call out their name so that I'm the bad guy. Like that I can do. I can totally
pick a little heat.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was basically my only role, was to like walk up and down the sidelines, clap, yell, make some jokes, and then pull people off. Except unless your name was Taylor or Tom, I wasn't touching those players. You can stay on the whole game if you want. Not my deal. So it was a lot of fun. Laravel team got shellacked, but it was still a lot of fun. Turns out the Primogen is incredibly fast for being like 37 or 38 and very good. And then they also had some very good basketball players. And it was fun. It was so silly. I think next year, if we do something like this again, it should be sillier. It should be like dodgeball or something.
Dodgeball. What? That would be fun. Yeah,
that would be fun.
Well,
so it was good.
I think they talked about this on No Plans to Merge when I was lying around sickly listening to all the podcasts, and they were like surprised. They were like, "Oh, we thought it was going to be fun and it'll be jovial," and I was like, I never for one second thought this would be fun and jovial. Like Taylor's going to be out there wanting to kill people and like dunk on heads. Like nobody
Tom
involved in
played
this.
college basketball.
Yeah. And the Primogen, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy he's like funny, but also intense. And like a guy that intense doesn't seem to me like he's going to be out there just like trying to be like the Harlem Globetrotters and horsing around. He's like, I'm going to go out there and crush you. Like that. I want the bragging rights. Like, and Dax is a bragging rights guy for sure.
That's why I said no. Cause I thought there's no way.
You want to be the heel.
If I had thought it was a comedy routine, I would have said yes immediately. Yeah. But I sidestepped into the comedy routine of being coach because I thought there's no freaking way I'm going to drag this team down. No way.
Dodgeball would be great though, because it also would let maybe more of the community. You could even have like a dodgeball tournament or whatever. It's like not so intense. You can just kind of walk around and throw the ball.
Yeah, imagine getting like 5-on-5 teams and doing like a little tournament. You got 8 teams and you play a little 5-on-5, and then that would be a lot of fun. I would love that.
That would be really fun.
And it serves a very useful purpose of like getting people in town and getting them immediately a place to like meet in a low pressure environment.
Yeah.
And then throughout the rest of the conference, you're like, oh, hey, we were at basketball together. Can I come sit with you at lunch or whatever? And that's a pretty big service to a lot of, the people attending, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I can imagine even having more than 8 teams. I wouldn't be surprised if you had quite a few people who signed up for something that was a little less intense than basketball. And yeah, I think it also gives people a chance. Like, everybody loves interacting with, like, both, like you're saying, like meeting new people and just like them having that conference friend that you can do stuff with. But even just like, hey, I was on a dodgeball team with Taylor or whatever, and I bounced the ball off Taylor's head, and that was hysterical or whatever. It's like, that's cool. Like, to get in close with the stars versus them just being on stage. So yeah, that's a good idea.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So after that, we did speakers dinner. One thing, don't listen to Caleb about Dallas. Dallas rules. Don't listen to Caleb. Caleb doesn't know anything. Caleb lives in a sleepy little hamlet in Buffalo. He doesn't know anything about Dallas. One thing that was great. One thing that was great about Deep Ellum, which is where the conference was, it was all walkable. So from their hotel, obviously I live here, so I stayed at home, but from their hotel to the speaker dinner, to the venue, to Laracon After Dark, to the barbecue place, everything was walkable, and it was awesome. Were there roads? There were roads, but hey, where are there not roads?
Roads everywhere.
Mackinac Island, that's the only place there aren't roads. But here in the city where I live, the city, not the suburbs.
The suburban.
Yeah, the city.
The suburbs.
There are roads. And you know what? You just got to look out for the roads. That's all. But beyond that, it was awesome.
Cross these 10-lane highways, just a little Frogger style.
Exactly.
I like it. Yeah, it sounds like it was. I didn't hear many people like super complaining about the heat. Was it not like max heat, or was
it wasn't cool max heat? Surprisingly, it was hot, but like the Laracon After Dark was outside, and it honestly wasn't that bad.
Okay. Cool.
We had a little bit of a respite. I don't think it was in the hundreds while people were here.
Yeah.
So that turned out to be fine. And I actually did hear several people say it's not as hot as I expected it to be.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, that's good.
Is Dallas a dry heat or a wet heat zone?
It is not Scottsdale dry, but it's also not Houston always humid.
Okay.
Like the past few days have been quite humid, but it's not like, oh, you go into Dallas, that's going to be humid.
That's just auto humidity.
No.
Okay.
So when people were here, I don't think it was very humid.
Yeah. All right. I like that. Yeah, I don't know if I had anything else. It seemed like it all went pretty well. I heard you guys, there's a couple improvement potential, but that's always the case with the conferences, so that's fine.
Yeah, anything to improve is tinkering at the margins. I still think this is the best conference by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, it's so good. And people are always happy, I'd say, and seems to just always go off well. Even when there are hitches, it's like it works out. Like even you on stage with Caleb and whatever, technical glitch, but it worked out great. Yeah,
that was fun. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Spotsy, who create all the packages that you know and love for Laravel. But today, specifically, we're going to talk about MailCoach. And MailCoach is one of their paid offerings that is fantastic. It is a email sending platform. You can self-host it, so you can like pull it into your Laravel application and host it yourself. Or you can use their hosted version with MailCoach. You get all the stuff that you kind of expect out of a mail sending platform. You get automations, you get workflows, onboarding leads, drip campaigns, anything else. But you pay for what you send and not the size of your audience. So when you are massively successful and you get a ton of people on your email list, you don't pay to keep those people on your list month after month. You just pay for the stuff that you send. They are, of course, privacy first by design. The tracking is all optional. You can use their API to integrate it into your existing workflows, but they also have a visual interface where you can go write in Markdown or whatever else so that you can use that without having to write any code. You can visit mailcoach.app to register for a free trial, no credit card required. And for listeners of the podcast, you can use discount code Mostly Technical for 3 months free. We're super grateful to Spotsy for sponsoring the show and for all the work they do in open source. So go give MailCoach a try at mailcoach.app. Okay, back to the show. Okay, so shortly, I haven't gotten your take on this. Shortly after the conference was the big $57 million announcement.
Yes.
Yes. So, what are your thoughts on it, and what are your thoughts on people's thoughts? Let's do a derivative.
Man, I love that you are becoming the Johnny Carson of the Laravel community. That's the first thing. Let's just start there.
Oh, it's
I
great.
think it's awesome.
It's
I think
great.
we need this. Other communities don't have that. I think it's another little like community advantage Laravel can lean into a little bit. But yeah, I thought like you sitting down with Taylor was so good.
That was just the multi-purpose room in the apartment. Isn't that crazy?
Ridiculous. It's
Freaking
ridiculous.
Freaking Steve, he put it together. We moved a bunch of furniture. I brought some plants down from my studio and put them in the background, and we worked real hard on getting it to look right. But it was just like the pool table room right off the pool, you know?
It's like, look at this guy. It's like Oprah out there. He's got the two chairs right next to each other. He's like diving in deep with everything. Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, with the money itself, I mean, I think it's awesome. Like, I mean, I think Taylor's ambitious. Like, at a certain point, like, yeah, like, could he have done it without it? Maybe, but I think their vision is like, really huge. And when you get into like, we're going to need thousands of servers and things like that, it just gets to be where you're going to need, you want to be able to hire. I have no inside information here, but let's just say you want to have like some really good security people, and those people are going to cost $700,000 a year or whatever. Like, that's a lot harder on the bootstrapper, even a very profitable bootstrap company. It's like, well, I'm paying one person an incredible amount of money.
I should get into security.
Everybody should be into security.
What the hell am I doing?
But I'm just making up numbers here. But like, whatever, you're gonna need more specialized help, most likely, than you would for something like Forge. And also, especially if you want to get into like, one of the things that's hard, even for my own use of it at times, is like they're not SOC 2 and things like that. And so, I think getting all those things done takes people and money and time and all that. So, I think it's great. I mean, it's a big amount of money, so there's big expectations, definitely a lot of pressure on Taylor anyway. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it doesn't change the community too much and stuff. I think so far it's been great, and there's been no visible downsides. It's like all the people in the community are getting hired to work at Laravel, so like it's been a make work plan for the Laravel community.
It's a VC jobs program at this point.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting too, because I think like they've hired a lot of people, right? But it's not an insane number of people. It's like,
no, not for what they've done / are doing.
I think he said it's like 30 something people so far, which isn't that, for the amount of money they have. It's not that many people, and it's not that many more than Taylor probably could have afforded even on his own at this point.
And it includes like all the finance and operations people. So you look at like the engineering output of what they've done so far, and you hear 30 people, and you're like, well, probably 20 engineers, maybe. I don't I don't know the makeup of the team, but it's still incredibly productive so far.
Yeah. And I think it'll be really cool that you're probably going to see just so many more, at the end of the day, Taylor loves building things, right? And so I think we'll probably see more products. So you'll have like Laravel Cloud, which will be like the flagship and the thing they hope, makes them all fabulously wealthy. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of other things. Like, I mean, obviously it already has another product that's coming out soon, it sounds like. And I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of keep that up and have some like skunkworks teams that are kind of always fiddling on other cool directions and product ideas and things like that. So yeah, I think it's great. I mean, hey, it'd be cool to have our own, sort of visionary leader in our circles here. And as that grows and becomes bigger. But yeah, I know some people were worried about it. I mean, I'm not particularly worried about like the open source end of things and stuff. I feel like that's going to still be rock solid, and they're still going to be shipping a lot of great stuff into Laravel. But it's also not unreasonable to think about. But yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, that was the only I think response. I think the only response I saw of concern was like, does this change the open source story, vibe, future? And of course, Taylor has said no many times. I'm inclined to believe that he is he's telling the truth on that. I don't think it's going to change the open source stuff at all. I mean, there's like 40 open source Laravel packages. Open source is a pretty big deal to Laravel, so I think it'll be fine.
And the whole thing with Laravel, right? One of the biggest advantages that's ever had and always had is that it's always been sustainably kind of run in terms of there's been revenue sources for it since the beginning. And so like that's a big part of why there's 40 open source packages and why there's a release every week and all these things is because there's actually money behind it. That's not just like how most open source runs, which is like hopefully some big company that really depends on this will throw us a few bucks and we can sort of make it another year. It's like, no, there's actual money. It's tied in with the products. There's everything's aligned and the motivation is clear and there to like keep making the open source version better. And so I think that's still true. And so that just seems like it's going to be really good for the open source end of things.
The funniest thing I saw was like, oh man, so Laravel's a business now? And I'm like, ooh, I got bad news for you.
Bad news, buddy.
or maybe good, who knows?
Laravel's
been a business
time.
for like 10 years or more. I don't remember when Forge was launched, but it was a long time ago, and it's been a business since then.
What was that, like 2014 maybe or something like that?
I think so.
Maybe even 13 or something. I don't know. Yeah, and it was like successful really early. Like that's what Taylor Still Worked Here, and I was like, dude, you gotta go. Like you're like it's like made like $100,000 in a couple months or something. I'm like, you gotta go do this. Like you can't be like, this is not a side project. This is like a thing. This is real. It needs all your attention. So
so how much did you get from Excel for being the Godfather? 5 million?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero Godfather money. I know.
They paid no respect to the Godfather.
It's just someday they'll have to come pay the respect. It's going to be just like the scene at the beginning of Godfather.
Oh, no spoilers.
Where the beginning of Godfather. Where
I haven't seen any of it.
Where the Undertaker comes and talks to the Godfather. You haven't. How do we even have a podcast? This is ridiculous.
Future content. I'm reserving it for future content.
We should do the Godfather episode. We should do the watch along. What if we did a watch along?
Oh, the watch along. Isn't it like 3 hours long?
It is 3 hours, but every minute is riveting, so it's fine. It goes by instantly.
Okay, we'll see.
We gotta get some time for you to watch The Godfather. Like you just gotta like
get some time for me. Full stop.
Rent a hotel room.
Time.
Just be there.
Listen. When I have my surgery upcoming to make sure that we don't have any more sets of twins, that is on the horizon. Maybe I'll get a hotel room and watch The Godfather.
Wow. Yes. Do it as
part
of that,
right? Because I can't lift, and so I don't want a kid running up to me and instinctively like lifting them up and like exploding down there. So we'll see.
That'd be bad.
You don't want that.
That'd be bad. Yeah, I love this idea. Tie those things together. I think it's perfect.
Right?
Yeah. Then we'll do the vasectomy Godfather episode of MT here.
We're gonna get so many content warnings on iTunes or Apple Music or whatever.
Man.
Oh jeez.
That's a medical procedure. One of the other ones, which I've also had, and which is one of the ones that's above gallbladder removal in top 5.
So, top 5 most common? That's great.
Yeah. So you should be or was it 8? Anyway, it's in the very high percentage of top 10 for sure. Yeah. Interesting. When's that happening? Do we have a date?
I think we do have a date, in fact. Okay. It's after Postgres. I think it's like early mid-November, something like that.
Ooh, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, there are times when I think like, what in the world would we do, even at this point, if we had a singleton? To say nothing of multiples again. I don't know if I could physically do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't mentally do it. That much I know. But I might physically die if we had twins down again. Yes.
No, twins for sure. You're a goner if you get twins again. Like that would be some kind of record. How many times could people have twins?
I don't know, man.
But
I don't know.
Multiple kids. But yeah, Jamie says this all the time. Like, because I'm always more like, I just love the baby phase, even though it's wrecked me physically every time because it totally destroys my sleep, and I'm not good when I don't get enough sleep, and so it always wrecks me. but I just love the baby and toddler phase. And she's always like, no. Like I would literally die. That would be it. I can't do it. Yeah. So when you get up to those, yeah, you got the 4. That's enough. You're
the
good,
4. 4 is plenty.
Yeah, you're
four.
good.
4 is plenty.
You've done your part for societal growth and all that stuff.
I'm trying to keep the birth rate up, and listen, y'all got to pick up the slack here. I'm done.
Everybody else.
Yeah. The rest of it's up to y'all. I did my part.
Come on, you techies out there, you're all smart. You're doing well.
Smart, you're all rich. Go
have
a bunch of kids. Yeah.
Me and Aaron have done our part. We're above replacement. Just like get out there and do it.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay. So no money for The Godfather. That's too bad.
No money for The Godfather. Don't be out here thinking The Godfather got paid. Godfather didn't get paid, but that's all right. I like it for the community. I don't need to get paid. I like I can't think of the word. The adulations. Whatever. I like being The Godfather. That's all I need.
It's a good
word. Get paid in respect. That's how The Godfather likes getting paid. He cares about the money, but he cares way more about respect. Respect is his real thing. That's his currency.
No respect.
That's his currency.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, respect. Flowers to Ian. I know.
Do you understand how much better your life and business is going to be after you watch The Godfather? You're going to make more money. You're going to have a happier family. These are
not the values I get from like the marketing of The Godfather. Have a better family. That doesn't seem.
You're not seeing the right ads, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm telling you, go into it with the approach of how am I gonna the family elements I'm gonna take out of this and the business elements I'm gonna take out of it. Just have that mindset.
It's about the mafia, right?
Yeah. La Familia. Family.
Okay. Perfect. That's kind of what I thought. Speaking of,
yes,
you think MrBeast is Gordon Gekko?
MrBeast is freaking Gordon Gekko. Who knew?
27 tweet thread from Ian Landsman. 27 tweets. I read them all. I read them all.
Did you?
It was great. It's great. I loved it. It was good.
I don't know.
So tell me.
I kind of ran out of steam a little bit, so I don't know. I wasn't super happy with it by the end, but I think it was all right. I don't know. MrBeast, some production document got, exposed. It's really cool. I think it's just like he just wrote it, and it's pretty obvious that he just wrote this thing, and it's like just blank white pages with like centered titles and
a bunch of like lols and lowercase words, and
like it's like ha ha ha's all over the place in it, and like so it's not corporate-y at all, and it's so bootstrappery. Like I don't know if MrBeast has ever actually raised any money. I don't think so, but even if he has, it's like was after he was already very successful and already had millions of dollars coming in. And so it's all super bootstrappery mindset. It's so like, I'm the guy who created this thing. I'm not like the guy the board put in charge of some business. It's like, this is my baby. I love this channel. And he just loves everything about it. And it's like, he's so deep in it and he's so knowledgeable about this one weird particular thing of making YouTube videos. And, yeah, it was fascinating. I don't know if we want to dig out a few parts, but like he's like Gordon Gekko. He's like a hardcore business dude who's like, if you want a friend, get a dog, and you're gonna and startup-y in some of these ways, obviously of the like you're supposed to bust your ass here, and we're all gonna make you we're gonna make you fabulously wealthy if you do. But I do think it's a little different to me because it's like they're already, I think, very profitable, or at least if they're not, it's with that like we are intentionally not profitable because we're spending money in other ways to grow faster. And so there's just more behind. It's like there is actual cash to make you fabulously wealthy, which is very different than there is stock, which might someday make you fabulously wealthy if everything goes perfectly well.
Yeah, and you don't get fired before it vests.
Right, and all the games of all that stuff, which is fine, and it's nice to have that lotto ticket, but at the same time, it's like pretty much just a lotto ticket, whereas like, hey, if you're making amazing videos and all the videos you work on are amazing and we can't afford to lose you no matter what, then we're just going to dump piles of money on you because every video you make makes 10 million. Then that we can make that math work of you being incredibly valuable or whatever. So I think that was all kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't have that. I don't actually, I'm totally unprepared. I don't have it up in front of me.
No, but, that's all right. I think, so I didn't read the document. I just read your thread. And I think the good takeaway was like the intense obsession with the goal. Yes. And the really interesting, like the part that was most interesting to me was like we are not here to make the best videos. We're here to make the best YouTube videos.
Yes, that's the part that
And
got me too.
yeah, I was like, that's actually a very good distinction, because either you
Yep.
said it or he said it, that they probably get a lot of Hollywood types in there that want to do stuff that doesn't really work on YouTube. And they're like, listen,
Yep.
we're not here to make the funniest videos or the most artsy, or we're here to make the best YouTube videos, which is
Yep.
is its own thing, of course. And so I thought that was good to have like a clarifying mission statement. One thing, I don't know if we've talked about this. One thing that Nathan Barry and I talked about on his podcast was Steve and I need to have like a through line, like this is what we do and this is who we do it for, and like this is the try hard, like not mission statement, but kind of.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't talked about that. We do need to talk about that too. I haven't heard the last half of the second episode, and so I don't think I heard that part, which is very annoying. Good. But yeah, just to wrap that first part up is like, yes, he's like very specific. Like, we're not making Netflix shows. We're not doing stuff for TikTok. We're not doing stuff for Instagram. I mean, I'm sure they cut it up and push things there, but that's not what we're doing here. We're making YouTube videos, and there is a formula for YouTube videos, and we run the formulas.
Yep.
And we create the formulas sometimes or whatever, but like it's always focused on how to make the best YouTube video. And there's all these little gimmicks. I'm sure he knows, there's more than he even writes in there, but it's like one that he returns to like 3 separate times is you never sort of indicate that the end is coming. Like it just has to end instantly. And because if you start to indicate that they're coming up on the end and project that,
we've done another one. You can't give them a wrap up sign.
There's no wrap up sign, because then like everybody stops watching, I guess, is the issue or whatever. It's like it just has to end instantly so that the retention curve stays the way that YouTube likes it, which is mostly flat, meaning mostly people watch through to the end. And so if you start having people drop off before the end, then YouTube the algo doesn't like it, and then it stops pushing you and blah, blah, blah. So there's all these little things where he has all these intricacies of YouTube creation. Yeah, that were super fascinating. And yeah, I love the idea. I mean, it's definitely something I've never felt like I've nailed in my own business, is like, this is what we do. Like, I mean, I can explain what we do and why HelpSpot's important and to the customers it serves, but it's just never quite that tight as, yes, we are here to make the best YouTube videos, and every single thing is in service of that. Every time you think about anything, you think about, is this making the best YouTube video or not? Is this going to be the, thing that makes this video successful? And he has a lot of stuff about that too, like whatever, coming up with the gimmick for a video. The thing that blew my mind really the most, and maybe this is just a known thing, I'd be curious to hear if you do this, but they come up with a title and the thumbnail first. That's what they start with, is the thumbnail. And then everything builds off the thumbnail, but the thumbnail happens first. And so I thought that was totally blew my mind that the thumbnail happens first.
Yeah, we don't do that. I know that that's like what you're supposed to do. I've heard that many times. But what I do is, like, if I have an idea for a video, the first thing I do is decide, is there an interesting hook for this?
Yeah.
Because if it's like, I really want to teach this one thing, and of course my videos are so different because I'm generally teaching people. I really want to teach this one thing, but I have to package it in such a way that it's interesting. Instead of just saying like, this is the thing, here's how you do it. There has to be some kind of angle of like, interesting example, funny use case, something like that. Otherwise I can't find the right hook, basically.
Yeah. So part of his whole strategy too, which was fascinating, was like the first minute being like, we got to really hook you. It sounds like, they're taking edits from other parts of the video, whatever they're doing to like make it super snazzy. And then minutes 1 through 3 are super important, because that's when you have a fair amount of fall off. So how do you limit that fall off? I don't know. Do you ever think about your videos in terms of that sort of thing? I think, like you said, it's very different. Not as much
as I should.
Yeah.
Honestly, the whole YouTube meta game is not one I play super well. In terms of like, what is the hook? What is the open loop? What is the the structure?
Yeah.
I should be much better about that. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to like take a teaching concept and turn it into like a viral loop hook. Right. But it's not impossible. And I think if I had a whole lot more time, that would be a fun thing for me to like investigate, and maybe get really good at. But at this point, my goal is to just like put out as much good content as I can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to be better at that.
Definitely, I think greatly increases the time commitment because you have to really
Huge.
plan the video out and then every moment of the video and all
Correct.
that stuff. And yeah, like he says, they talk about every like what minute of the video are you working on, and each minute has its own plan and its own beats, and like they
Oh,
generally
no,
know how
nobody
long
got
it's.
time for that. Yeah, I
I
can't do
know, it's
that.
crazy.
That's why
Yeah,
he's
you know,
winning,
you
because
have a team.
he's got the obsession and the time and the money to do that.
Yeah,
And even before he had the money, he had the obsession and the time.
right.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's what he talks about in there too. He's like, I just watched and analyzed more than anybody else, and put in the work and then
yeah.
found the hooks and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. People should check it out. I didn't think I linked to the full document, but if you just search like MrBeast production guide, I'm sure it'll come up. It was quite a fascinating read, especially like the first half. It kind of then it's a little uneven. The rest of it, it's like fine, but not quite as interesting. But yeah, it was really interesting. The first third or first half was really good. So check that out. Yeah. So on Nathan, so the idea of like, yeah, who's your guys' audience? Like, is it
Hmm.
program? I assume it's something with programmers who deal with databases or whatever. But I don't know if you've locked that in, and also how even once you lock it in, how do you convey it and describe it and all those
Right.
things? So what
Yeah,
is
and I don't want it to be database people, like,
okay?
because so Steve and I have dreams of breaking out of the tech world. So
Okay.
not just be not just produce database courses forever.
Hmm.
I think we're good at that. I enjoy that personally. I like teaching in general. I think I'm good at it and I have fun with it. But I don't know how or what or when, but I would like to dream a little bit bigger than just like doing technical courses forever.
Mm,
And so, and even as we exist currently, screencasting.com is our focus after Postgres. And that is just like fundamentally different than
right.
databases. And so I don't know. Like I don't know what the like core tenant or the through line is. I think that to some extent it's me, right? It's just things
Right.
I'm interested in and things that I want to see in the world, but I don't know how to turn that into a mission statement. So yeah, I don't know. I think it works well right now, like the database courses and kind of like the creator side of stuff, but I don't know how to make it super tight. And then beyond that, I don't know like what we grow into. So maybe we do Postgres, we do a bunch of screencasting, we do like the flagship course again, and then Steve does editor courses. And then we probably will do MySQL after that. We'll probably, play the
Mm,
hits and do
mm,
MySQL.
okay.
And then after that, I don't really know.
Mm,
After Postgres, I'm going to need a big long break because
all
I'm
right.
I'm getting to the end of my rope here. But I don't know what the future beyond that looks like. Unfortunately, we don't have to know right now because we have enough on our plate that we have to focus. But yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like at one point you talked about like I don't know if you use these words, but like a variety show of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can see like kind of tying back in the Johnny Carson theme of like maybe it's
Exactly.
like not horrible Lex Friedman or something, like
Mm-hmm.
some kind of interview angle, or interviewing quite different than produced videos, but
Yeah.
or produced show of some
Mm-hmm.
sort.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. After Laracon, the event staff asked me if I wanted to MC some other stuff, and I was like,
mm,
"Yeah,
oh
definitely.
wow, that'd be
Send me an
wild.
email."
Yeah.
So I don't know what that looks like, but that feels like
Mm,
a step into a broader world,
right.
where the value that I'm providing is not technical education. It's something
Right.
else. And I'd be curious to run that down and see what that looks like. But yeah, the variety show is still like it's still on my list and I'm still
Yeah.
going to do it. It's just a matter of getting these other
Fun.
things out the door first.
Now, do you worry about sort of the focus,
Constantly.
right? Because
Go
it
on.
does seem like you're building up a rep. people like the database courses, especially if Postgres goes well. Presumably, it's going to be wider than SQLite, I would think. So, you start to build that up, and then it's like you kind of get into that. It's kind of like we were talking about with money even before at the start. Like, it's going to be easier to sell into the group you already sell into, presumably, and all that kind of stuff. And you ultimately have bills to pay and things you want to do. So how do you balance like then transitioning into other markets or all that stuff? So
I constantly worry about it. I think one step at a time is part of the answer. So I can't immediately go to, I don't know what's way out of left field. I can't immediately go to concert pianist and then like nobody follows me there, right? So I think if we're gonna step outside of database education, which we are, it needs to be kind of a gradual thing. And looking back, it should be obvious the path to get from here to there or there to here. So I think that's part of it. In terms of like the money, I'm hoping that SQLite has done very well. I'm hoping Postgres does 3 or 4 times as well. And then that buys us a little bit of buffer in terms of time to kind of like have some fun. Because I think that's the final and maybe most important thing is I just don't want to do database courses forever. I just really don't. Like there are so many things I want to do. And so and I'm very sensitive because I'll listen just in general, but I'm very sensitive to this particular thing because I'll listen or watch on Twitter certain people be like, hey, I'm working on this new thing. And everybody's like, no, you're an idiot. You got to focus. You're never going to make it. And I watch that and I'm just kind of on the sidelines being like, ooh, guys, that's kind of how I feel. So I'm very sensitive to that notion. And it doesn't super matter what other people think, but it is going to be like a gradual, hopefully, progression. And I am going to weather some of the like, why are you doing this stupid thing? And you know what the answer is going to be? Because I want to be happy. Like there are things that I want for my life, and I don't really care if a bunch of people want me to do a course on MariaDB. Maybe I just don't want to do it, and it would make the most business sense to do it. But provided we have enough money coming in and we have ideas that are fun and could make money, I would rather do the ones that I want to do instead of being captured by the audience. So
definitely the like people who are like you're stupid or whatever, that's like whatever, who cares about that? But like I just think practically there ends up being a lot depends on like Postgres does a huge number, you have like all this time and flexibility potentially, but even there it's like you are making trade-offs, right, of like guaranteed money, let's say guaranteed even though it's like not guaranteed, versus exploring new things, and you always have to explore some new stuff because otherwise it's definitely going to be stale. And you've also been on this like database heater for this year, and I think just you're going to need something to refresh the brain cycles for sure. So but it's like whatever, like Wes, like he mostly just stays in his JavaScript CSS lane, for example, right? Those guys, like, well, it's a job, right? That's part of it too. It's like, this is my job, is to teach people about these things. And so my job is to go in 9 to 5. Every 6 months I make a course, whatever I have no idea what their frequencies are, but whatever, it's a job. And then I do other things that entertain me outside of it, which isn't how you have to approach it at all, but that's sort of the like standard approach, right? Would be like, okay, I found a thing that works, I'm gonna stick with that.
Let's just mine this vein until it runs dry.
And maybe it's not the most fun every day or whatever. I do think like CSS and stuff's probably a little more fun than databases. If I had to pick one to do,
probably
for years, I'd probably go CSS just because it changes faster, I'd say, and it's kind of got a little more pizzazz.
To those examples, I think Wes and Kent both probably have very enjoyable lives, but I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to do JavaScript for the next 10 years. Like I don't want to just continue. And I told this to Nathan, like Kent has this like this universe that he's constantly building, and that is the Epic Web stack or learning stack or whatever.
Okay.
And I just don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to continue to talk about databases for the next 10 years, much less, but definitely not the next like 2 years even.
Yeah.
And so I think in terms of pattern matching off of people, I'm trying to think of a modern day equivalent, but somebody more like Theodore Roosevelt or Thomas Edison, where it's just like you just do a bunch of random stuff. Like Theodore Roosevelt,
see what hits.
Famous big game hunter, president, poet, author, inventor, crazy person. Like that seems awesome. I want to do that. Let's do that. I'll do that. I'll be president one day. That'd be awesome. But in terms of find the one thing you like and just do that forever. I don't know if that fits for me, at least not in this context. Maybe the one thing is like creating stuff. And sure, when you go that broad, I could do that forever. But if the one thing is being the best database educator in the world, I don't have a lot of interest in doing that, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, and it's also might be like, it might take the right thing. Like, even if this is successful financially, that's not the, you have to find the right thing that really strikes you. And that might be the thing that you're like, oh, I'll double down on this thing because it keeps me mentally engaged as well as being, financially lucrative or whatever. Like, I think like the modern standard techie kind of angle to this would be like a Steve Jobs, right? Like the classic, like he could just have kept building Macs, but he's like, hey, let's do phones. And then we did other stuff. And I own Pixar too. And like, we're doing Pixar movies and all that kind of stuff.
Totally. Or maybe, I hate to bring him up, maybe Elon Musk.
Before
let's
crazy Elon Musk, normal Elon Musk.
Pre-Twitter Elon Musk. Let's dig some tunnels. Let's go to Mars. Let's put some stuff in the brain. Let's build some cars. Like, my man, that sounds awesome.
He did get rich on the initial thing though, that's very helpful.
He did.
Same with Steve Jobs. There is that, like, if you get rich, then you have so much flexibility to do whatever you want, which is why people want to be rich, because money does solve some problems sometimes.
It does. Yeah. So that is part of the hope that Postgres brings in enough money that between Postgres and SQLite and probably MySQL, shortly thereafter, we have this stable offering of high quality, and I hope it's the highest quality possible educational material that then funds some of the more speculative, interesting, like side tangents. And like after Postgres, I think in November, December, I'm gonna work on something physical. I think we have a physical product idea that I'm gonna work on. And you know what? We also have a software product idea. And so those are the types of things where it's like, if we could have a little time and space to do a little bit of this bizarre off the wall stuff, maybe it works out great. Maybe it's a base hit, but either way, it's good content. It's everything's content, baby. And it's a lot of fun. And I think I'm trying to decide what I'm optimizing for. And I think right now we're optimizing for money, and I would like for that to change at some point. And I'm mentally steeling myself to prepare. And I think this is an interesting like concept. Like, when we're no longer optimizing for money, I'm preparing for people to tell us that we're doing things that are not optimal for money. And my answer is going to be yes. You're absolutely right. It would make more sense to do the thing that you're talking about if we were optimizing for money, which hopefully at some point we no longer are, and we're optimizing for some combination of lifestyle, interest plus money, some amalgamation of those things. So we'll see.
I like that. Oh man, I had a question in there and now I can't remember. Optimizing for money. Oh, MrBeast had a very you have to read the whole document because a lot of it applies to you. But this was interesting just on everything's content. He's like, one of his piece of advice, he's like, be paying attention to everything going on in that. Like, his example was, let's say you have 100 vases in your car for the current video, and a tree falls on your car and wrecks all the vases. Like, that's amazing content. Like, that's
amazing
funny.
Content.
That's something that either we should do something with in this video and we're going to cut it in somehow as part of the funny things that happened or whatever. I don't know exactly what he does with that, but like, or we're going to make a new video. It's an idea for a new video or whatever, but like always be aware of your surroundings and what's funny or entertaining or things like that. Because it sometimes just comes up in other ways there, but yeah, I like this plan. I think, I mean, and obviously even the database courses, like databases don't change that fast. If once a year you run through and do, here's 10 new videos in each with the latest and greatest, that makes sense. Then you get to do the whole re-release cycle, updated for Postgres 74 or whatever.
They do release so fast over there. Yeah.
MySQL though, now what with that one?
Yeah,
feels like that would be hard. I feel like that's going to be one that like it's hard, going to be real hard for you to do. Like you've already done one full course, and I feel like you've done other stuff with it over time.
It's gonna
like
be tough, right?
Just a hard one to choke down. Of like, oh, I'm doing this again. Like
doing this,
I'm saying the same things again. Yeah. Like because 90% of it's going to be the same as the last one. Yeah, but
I know.
I feel like you need
like we've talked about before. I'm going to be competing with me. I'm going to be competing with free and me. And so it's going to be different. I will say I do want the set. And there's a part of me that's like, I just have to have it.
Right.
It's mine and I will have it. And then I'm smarter now than I was back then.
Yeah.
And I am a better teacher now than I was back then. And I have Steve now. I did that whole course by myself.
That was pre-Steve.
That was pre-Steve. And so there are things that are going in my favor. And MySQL 9 was released. It's a big old nothing burger, but it was released. So that counts.
That's some new stuff.
Yeah. So, and I think the having the full set will be a thing unto itself. Like you can cross promote, you can market, you can say, you can bundle, you can buy them all like that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to not do it, even if it's our worst performing course monetarily. I think it makes sense because it's probably also going to be the easiest to produce.
Right. You know, like, a lot of it.
I already did all the research. Now I just got to, freshen up for it and then hit record. So yeah, we'll see.
Would you do DynamoDB, Redis, like some of these things that
I
are
would
like
do Redis,
non-traditional databases?
I would do Redis. I would not do Dynamo because the thing that SQLite, Postgres, and MySQL have in common is they're all very common to each other. And so I feel like with all of the experience I have, plus a bunch of research, I can get there on any of those three databases, even Maria, honestly. I don't have any production experience with something shaped like Dynamo, and so I wouldn't feel very confident. And I would feel a little bit icky just like regurgitating docs. So I've talked to some people about potentially doing a Dynamo course under our brand that like we produce but they teach. And I think that's totally doable.
That's also an interesting way to like get out of the database game without getting out of the database games. Like if you're not the one doing the databases, whatever, you guys can produce a bunch of database videos, but just you're not the base.
Yeah, so I'm in the works with two people on that. In fact,
that's interesting.
Neither of them are the Dynamo ones. Like that's still extremely early. But in the works is like a Rails SQLite course. With not me, and then there's a second course that is very early stages that I won't talk about anymore. But it is it's outside of databases, and it's the kind of thing where Steve and I would produce it, and a subject matter expert would teach it, and it would live. It'd be like a joint. It'd be a try hard, so-and-so production.
I like that.
And we're to the point where it's like, I talked to Steve after I talked to this instructor. I was like, hey, Steve, this person wants to do it. I would love to work with this person. They're top of their game. Like, let's do it. He was like, sounds great. I could fly out to them for a week and rent an Airbnb and do it up into a recording studio. And I can manage the lights, the recording, everything, and just sit by quietly while they do it. And I'm like, that is next level. That is a good idea. That is try hard right there.
Yeah, that's how you get the high quality production.
Exactly.
Yeah, if they don't have the full setup for it.
That kind of stuff, that is a good example of taking a half step out
Right.
without like becoming a concert pianist and people being like, what the hell? I'm not following this guy anymore. But it's like you're experiencing or you're witnessing the growth or the expansion of like the brand and the empire, but without feeling, disjointed, hopefully.
The other low-hanging fruit thing to me, I guess, would be the full enterprise jump of SQL Server and Oracle,
Yeah.
which use the same SQL flavors as PG and MySQL, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's not something I don't think you have a ton of experience with. Maybe that would be for somebody else too. And that's not like the developers that are in your circles maybe aren't a ton of those people, but those are also circles that pay lots of money for things.
Pay a
which
lot
is
of money.
nice.
I want to be in those circles. You know who has 40 years of experience with Microsoft SQL Server?
Who's that? Besides me?
One Stanley Francis, my father.
There we go.
Isn't that crazy?
Dad. That's awesome. Get him on the screen.
Yep, that was his whole deal for forever, up until a few years ago. Honestly, like he's I don't know, 71 or
charm, or did that initiate with you?
Okay. I think he could do it. I think he would need a little. Awesome. He'd need a little camera coaching.
Yeah.
But he could totally do it. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Isn't that wild?
I think you should do that. I know you've said that, but I didn't really put that together like that. Yep. So yes, I think that'd be really cool. Dad can use a few bucks, man. Everybody needs a few bucks as they're heading into retirement. Is he retired already or not retired yet?
Yeah, retired.
Yeah, so even more so than needs a few bucks.
It
can't hurt to have a few bucks.
You. But you're right. I look at these DB charts. I think I forget what it's called. Maybe DB Rank or DBRanking.com or something. And Oracle's just always number one. It's like Postgres and MySQL are fighting it out, and Oracle's just like cruising across the top of the charts for a decade or something.
It is a little trickier in some ways, though, and that like there's tons of like get certified, like there's official certifications for these things and all kinds of stuff. So it's also not the more blue oceany vibe of these other open source ones. It's like, no, there's a lot of like companies just built around making content for Oracle and stuff. So
yes, there's a lot of corporate training where it's like you come in, you watch slideshows for 6 hours, and then you get your CE credit, your continuing education credit, and then you can move on. But I'm looking at db-engines.com. I can't imagine dbengines.com was taken, but db-engines.com.
I like a dash.
I hate a dash. Because I just said it out loud like an idiot. db-engines.
You have to say it.
You have to say it. Oracle, number 1. MySQL, number 2. Microsoft SQL Server, number 3. Postgres, number 4. Mongo, Redis, Snowflake, Elasticsearch, IBM, SQLite. So
Snowflake, that's kind of interesting.
What's the one that Jess spoke on? Cockroach. I think that one is extremely interesting to me.
If you got into like ClickHouse and Single Store, some of these like
I lied.
ClickHouse.
Yeah.
They should rebrand the Cockroach, but ClickHouse. These column store databases. I mean, those are really hot right now too. I imagine if you did like a column store, maybe you don't do each one individually, like a column store database.
That's interesting.
Course. That covers like ClickHouse and Single Store. And
Single Store is a featured product on this rankings page. They've bought out all the ad space.
Single Store is. I know Jack Ellis is always evangelizing it, and I was planning on using it for some stuff, which I'm not doing now. But so they are very performant and very cool. It does take. I mean, I think it's the kind of thing where you actually. A lot of existing developers need training on it because it's not. It's a very different way to think about the database. It's
fundamentally quite different.
Yeah. So. There's all different trade-offs and all those kind of things, but
I think if I did do an analytical database, I would start with DuckDB, which is the SQLite of analytical databases. So it's like embedded single file thing, and that would make a nice complement. That would make a nice complement to SQLite, and it would also be, I think, a pretty approachable entry point for these analytical databases, both for me and the audience.
It's just free. And
learning ClickHouse is going to take me a freaking long time, but I feel like learning DuckDB has a little bit of a lower barrier to entry. So that's definitely on the table. I would love, I'm very much a collector and a completionist, and I would love to have a full set of courses.
The full set. It's like the encyclopedias.
Well, exactly. The National Geographics, encyclopedias. Like, what do I want to do with my life is the question, and that is still an open question.
It might take, also, I mean, the nice thing about this is it could go back, it could be over years, right? It's like,
It could
you
be.
don't necessarily have to complete it day one. It's like, hey, every 6 months you go back and hit a database for a month, and that's it, and in between you're doing other things.
Go do some light manufacturing, go do a database course. Light manufacturing, software product. Yeah, I could get into that. That sounds
so. All right, man. Anything else we want to cover with that, or anything else?
Oh, Sinatra, baby. Let's close on Sinatra.
We didn't really cover the Postgres course exactly.
Not even a little
bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we have next week, but give us a little bit in the Sinatra. Yeah, we should cover it. We got to talk about Sinatra.
So we were talking about what are we going to do for this Postgres trailer?
Yeah.
Are we just going to do the same thing we did for SQLite, which is kind of like fast cuts and a beat and like me working and stuff happening? And I think to his credit, Steve was like, we can do the same thing and try to do it bigger, or we can just sidestep and do something completely different. I was like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. That sounds like a fun strategy.
Yeah.
And so we did. We just sidestepped and did something completely different. And I remembered that you either tweeted or sent me that comedian's hype video for playing at Madison Square Garden, the Andrew Schultz video.
Yep.
And I was
wow, I didn't realize you took it from that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like, that song. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I will die for him. And so I remember that feeling of watching him and hearing that song and thinking, we got to use that song. Right. And so I pitched it to Steve, and he was like, all right, let's do it. What's the storyline? And so we kind of, we used footage from a bunch of different places. Like we used footage from unused footage from the layoff video. So me walking along the side of the road, we actually recorded back in March. And just didn't actually use it.
Yep.
Then we had studio build out footage that I took here on my iPhone back in, March, April, May, whatever. Actually, that was January, February.
Oh, right. That part was,
So didn't use that. And the stuff at Home Depot I recorded in January, February, like me putting the boards on the cart. Yeah, I know. I just had it. Everything's content. And then I did some fake takes here in the studio. Steve did a bunch of filming at his house. So the printing, the highlighting, and the Post-it notes were all done at Steve's house.
That highlighter lives in infamy.
Space age highlighter is crazy.
I want to know what the deal with that highlighter is.
I know. And the Post-it notes, I have like that right there is the SQLite course, all that stack of Post-it notes on a restaurant spike. And so that was, we're doing that for the Postgres trailer. And then we had a kid. We had Matthew Knipfer, something like that. We had him come up from Austin and do the drone shot. And so cool. He did the drone shot here at the studio, and he also did a few other. Awesome. He brought his big camera, and he did a few other just shots in and around the studio. And then it was over to Steve. Like, good luck, have fun, buddy. And he just freaking crushed it. It was so good. And I watched it and I just laughed out loud. I was like, this is incredible. The course is going to be a massive letdown, compared to this like inspirational montage.
Video like this, and we have Sinatra and every 80 videos.
It's all about these goofy data types that Postgres has, and not about like make your dreams come true. But hey, the trailer was awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah, I love when there's the discontinuity too of like the song like crescendos and like the inspirational thing, but it's about a database course, so it's like you wouldn't necessarily think that, but then it all just kind of works.
I know.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was like totally blown away by it. I was like, wow, this is
so ridiculous.
That might have been, it's probably the most next level thing you guys have done in some ways.
I think so.
Because like with the drone and like lots of cuts and like different scenes and like and a lot of it apparently was already there and you had recorded it before, but like obviously you don't know that when you're watching a video. So it's like, wow, they really did a week of shooting to like do all this stuff, and it really comes in as over the top. I don't know how you're gonna follow that up. Really,
no idea.
That's why you gotta get out of the database game. You can't follow that up.
So we gotta continue to sidestep. We gotta do new, pivot. Enter a new field each time, just so that we don't have to like one up ourselves. Yeah.
So how was that received, though? I assume well.
Amazing. Yes, very well. Lots of very positive public feedback. Lots of encouraging DMs. We're going to put out a post maybe today, maybe tomorrow about the numbers behind it all. But I think we have like 1,500 people on the mailing list already.
Wow,
just from that, which is great.
Right. Just from one video.
Yeah, just from one video on Twitter, and so that's good. And then we'll continue to mail the SQLite list and ask them to cross over and continue to do stuff like that. But yeah, the reception has been amazing. Gotten a few inquiries of like making videos, like not courses. Like, hey, will you come shoot an ad for us? And we're like,
oh wow,
maybe. What do you got in mind?
Maybe you'll become Sandwich,
That's exactly
and they do
right.
that.
Yeah,
that could be interesting. Always working on different things and stuff. So yeah.
So yeah, lots of good feedback. This is another one of those, like, just put it out there and see what happens, and like do the best you can possibly do, and then we'll see what comes of it. And I think that continues to be a viable strategy. Like, obviously we want it to market the course that we want to sell for US dollars. Yes.
Right.
But we also want it to reflect well on us and people to think highly of us and offer us, opportunities that we didn't know existed. And I think it has served that purpose as well.
Yeah, no, it obviously put you guys in a great light, I think. And there's just nobody else is doing this like tech content with this sort of style. It's all pretty more straightforward. And so yeah, I think it really stands out. Obviously, do you think it did it as well as the first one? Like the first one, you had the juice of the layoff and everything, so I didn't know if it like reached those same highs, or was it close?
In terms of just like pure views on the layoff video, I think the layoff video might have had more pure views. I don't actually know if that's true. But in terms of like, if you compare it to the SQLite launch video, I think it did better.
The SQLite video.
It did better than the SQLite launch video. But the audience is bigger. More people know, and so it's like, I don't know if it's apples to apples, but it did better.
Well, yeah, I would have thought maybe the SQLite video had an advantage because it was like closer to the layoff storyline. And so, people were more focused on you and what was going on more actively because it was like in the news in our little world here. So that's great. If it's like, if it's above that, I think it's really great. So no calls from the Sinatra estate yet?
No, not yet. But if they want a 100% off coupon for the course, I would gladly give that to them.
That's good.
I don't know. Good. It's an old song, right? Like, isn't copyright mostly vibes? Yeah. So hopefully it's old enough that nobody cares. And we didn't put it on YouTube because they do have content matching, and I don't, it's like, I don't know. So yeah, hopefully nobody comes knocking, and if they do, we'll gladly pull it down.
Isn't there a way on YouTube to put it up there and just say that they can monetize? Like, if you let them monetize it, then it's okay, or something like that. I think it's only if you try to not let them do it or something.
It depends on the rights holder. So the rights holder can say, yeah, you can use it, but we get the money, or the rights holder can say, no, you can't use it at all. And so I think the Laracon live streams got pulled because they had so many walk-on songs, and some of them were like, actually, no, there is no license. You can't use this at all.
Yeah, because you got to check. YouTube has some database you look up in, presumably, or whatever. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Man, well, I think Postgres course is going to be a mega hit. I'm excited. Do you think? I guess you're running it as two separate lists. Then you're not just using the SQLite course as the base. Just keep it fully separate. That's probably the right way to do it.
It's all in one bento account, and so it's deduped, but it's tagged. And we have mailed the SQLite list and said, hey, I know you like SQLite. You might like Postgres. Here's a link. Click it. We'll tag you. Otherwise, like, you're good. Don't you won't hear from us
now, though. Are you in? Is that going to work? Because, like, what if I'm on the SQLite list? I mean, this probably isn't a huge deal, but like, if I unsubscribe, I may not be able to get on the Postgres list.
If you unsubscribe, it removes the tag that says list : SQLite.
Okay.
And so, like, if you're subscribed to the personal, the SQLite, the screencasting, and the Postgres, whenever I send an email to one of those lists, the unsubscribe removes you from that list.
Okay, so it's still like a separate list sort of concept where you can be on one and unsubscribe from another or whatever. Okay. Yeah, because I never use Bento, but the other tools, some of them anyway, don't work like that. It's like you have to have a more like a definitive object of like a list, and it works within a list. But like the tagging alone wouldn't be enough. But it sounds like Bento's like tag oriented.
Yeah, it can be, and that's the way that I'm using it, is tag oriented.
Cool.
And I think what I would like to have soon is like a manage preferences page on like aaronfrancis.com, because right now I send an email and it's like, what list is this? Okay, what unsubscribe link is that? What I would like to have is just like manage your preferences. You can go unsubscribe, resubscribe from all or any or whatever you want. But that takes a few minutes of engineering, and I just haven't done that yet.
Yeah, is this plan still to move over to Aaron Francis? Or?
It is, and we have actively engaged a designer to help us like redirect what has been my personal website into a more brand style website. And so once they're done with that process will begin. But as of now, all emails are coming from aaronfrancis.com. There's just no global like manage preferences yet.
Right. All that stuff.
Yeah. And the courses login is still it's still on each discrete domain.
Right. So some behind the scenes work to do still.
Everything has to happen first. It's like, oh, you got to do this. Well, you got to do that first. Well, you got to do that first. Like, how does it all have to happen first?
I know.
This doesn't make any sense.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
All right, man. I think we gave the people a good run here. So
we did. Good to have you back, sir.
Good to be back. Very nice to be back. I was actually a little nervous leading into the pod. You know, it's been a while since I've been on. Like, this is my first day back working at all.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I checked in, you know, because whatever, when you run your own company, you always have to check in. But like, but this is the most like not working I've kind of done in a non-vacation format in ever, probably. So yeah, so first day back at work, kicking off with the pod, and back at it this week. So all right, man.
Did a great job. Welcome back.
Thanks, everybody out there. You can follow us over at mostlytechnical.com, mostlytechpod. Email us at mostlytechnicalpodcast@gmail.com, which I have checked in on and cleared out, and there was nothing in there. So it was there was nothing for you in there anyway, and just a couple little things. So thanks for writing in, folks who do, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
See ya.